In online guys, good morning. So today we are going to start the continuation part of query annotation and table query
Recording
concept.
in progress.
So actually we were in this concept, understanding a query annotation. We'll also open the document and the example code. Okay. So yesterday we have executed one query which is a JPQL query. So let me let us open the application. Okay. Okay, right. This is the concept that we have discussed in the last class. This annotation can be used to attach either SQL query or JPQL query to the method declaration. Okay. If you run a JPQL query will be again translated to the SQL query. JPQL query looks like SQL query only. There is no difference much, but I told you JPQL query means you are not going to write the table name and column. Instead of writing the table name and column, you need to write the class name and properties. If you write the class name and properties, the query becomes what? JPQL query. Let's continue to it, okay? Some examples that we will write here. Okay. Just for example, we have some SQL query like this. You have an SQL query like this. Okay, the SQL query is select star from EMP. Okay, right? Select star from EMP. Now, how to write the same thing in JPQL? The JPQL query looks in this way. Select E from employee. So table name is EMP, right? Now what? You have to replace the table name with the entity class name. What's the entity class name? Employee. Reference variable E. So select E from employee E. This is a way of writing what? JPQL query. Next example. Example 2. SQL query is select only employee number, comma, sal from EMP. Let's say where department number equal to question mark. Now this is SQL query. But how do you write the same thing in JPQL? JPQL query, SQL query both are same, but only with a small difference. What the way of writing JPQL is select E dot EMPNO, comma, E dot sal from employee, where E dot DEPTNO equal to question mark 1. Question mark 1. This is SQL query and this is JPQL query. Okay, right? For example, you're writing some SQL query in this way. Select something. For example, select department number, comma, sum of sal from EMP, group by department number. So we want to find sum of the salaries of each department. So for that we are going to use what? A group by. Okay, group by department. First group all the reports which are having the same department number, group them, and then find what aggregate operation called sum of salaries, group by department number. Now, how to write the same thing in JPQL query? Same, select E dot DEBTNO, comma, sum of E dot sal. That's it. From from employee, group by, all this where, group by, between, everything works here. Okay, E dot department number. So now you got some practice of writing what query now? JPQL query. In this way, JPQL queries are constructed. You can write any number of queries in a similar way. Just what is the difference? Don't use table name in the JPQL. Instead of table name, what do you have to write? Entity class. Next, don't use column names, but instead of that, you have to use what names? Properties names. Then your query becomes what type of query? JPQL query. JPQL query, right? Nice. Now, yesterday, how can we tell, or how to tell the JPA that it is a SQL query or a JPQL query attached to this method? By writing native query. Native query true means what? It is one SQL query. So if you don't write native query is equal to what the default value? False, which means it is what type of query? JPQL query. If it is JPQL query, then what Hibernate will do? It will translate the JPQL query to what? SQL query, and then we'll export that on the database, right? Okay. Good. So just I'm writing examples here. This is SQL query, this is JPQL query. Okay, so here I'll just like hint. Native query is equal to true tells JPA that what the query is an SQL query. Native query equal to true tells the JPA that it is an SQL query. The query is an SQL query. The query is SQL. Correct. If your query is SQL query, then how do you tell the JPA that the query is SQL query? By writing native query is equal to true. If native query is equal to true, then JPA, that is nothing but JPA provider. Who is a JPA provider? Hibernate. It will directly export the same query without making any translations. But if you don't write native query is equal to false, native query equal to true, by default is false. Then JPA understand that this query is what type of query? JPQL query, and it will translate the JPQL query to what? SQL query. That is how it works. That is how it works. So this is the second that we have discussed. Now, there is a third way. Before we move on to the third approach, we can also use query annotation to perform write operations. To perform what operations? No, write operations. To perform the write operations, we can use query annotation. Is not only for performing select operations. Select means what? Read operation. And query annotation can be used to perform both read operations and write operations. Right now, this query annotation used for what operation? Read operation. But you can also use it for what operation? Write operation. Let's see how we can use it for write operation. See the point here. Suppose I write like this now. What I write? Return type is int int. Update done by department. Upstream department. Double use. question I'm asking. There is a table called order. In that table, amount column is there, status column is also there. Write a query to update the amount by status. Tell me what is a query. This is very simple SQL query. Very simple SQL query. Table name is orders. Update orders. Set amount equal to question mark. Where question status equal to question mark. That's it. Correct. That is a query I'm asking. Okay. Update orders. Set amount equal to question mark. Where status equal to question mark. This is the query. This query will update all the order amount by their status. You provide how much amount and you provide what the status you want to use. Correct. So then automatically this query will update all the orders with a given amount from the given status. The query is a set. What update order? Orders is a table. That amount equal to question mark. Where status equal to question mark. A simple query, right? It's a very simple query. Now we want to convert it into JPQL query. How do you convert it JPQL query? Okay, update. Okay, let it lowercase also. No problem in uppercase. Update. Order O. Orders is a table, but order is entity class. Okay, order O. Set O dot amount equal to question mark 1. Where O dot status is equal to question mark 2. That's it. We are pretty sure with the query now. This is called what type of query? JPQL query. JPQL query. Next. Okay now? So this query I'm writing now. Second query I'm writing now. Update. Tell me what's the query to write here? Update. Update. What do you update? Order O. Set O dot amount equal to question mark 1. Where O dot status equal to question mark 2. Question mark 2. Update order O. Set O dot amount equal to question mark 1. Where O dot status is equal to question mark 2. This is query. And why I am using return type as int? Because this update query will update the number of records in the table. So this method will return what? The count. How many records are updated? That count. Count is always integer value. That's why we are taking return type as what? Int. So this is how we have to prepare one query end method. But if I run this query, I will get errors. Because by default JPA will use query annotation only for read operation. I repeat again. By default JPA use query annotation for what operation? Read operation. Read operation. But now we are using query annotation to perform which operation? Write operation. Read, write, only two operations we can perform on data, right? We can read the data, we can write the data. Write means update also, write only, delete also, write only. Okay? Right, good. So query annotation can also be used for performing write operation. But by default, what JPA will do? JPA will understand that query annotation is used for what operation only? Read operation. So we should tell the JPA. This query is not a read operation, it is a write operation. And for that, there is one annotation provided called modifying. For the annotation, modifying. One more new annotation you want it. By writing modifying annotation, we are telling the JPA that what this query is a write operation. It is not read operation, it's a write operation. So what is the annotation used for that? Modifying. Very good. Next, we also need to tell the JPA that execute this query within a transaction. Normally, JP will execute the select operation in a transaction. It internally creates a transaction and will execute the query, then will commit the transaction. So there is some transaction concept used internally. Within a transaction, the queries are executed on the database. But you also need to tell explicitly to the JPA that this query also must be executed within a transaction. And for that, we should write at a transactional. Was annotation at a transactional? Very good. Okay, right? This annotation provides the ability to declaratively control transaction boundaries and so on, so blah blah blah. You'll get so much of things. But in short, okay, this is the annotation. What is the annotation? At a transactional. This annotation tells JPA that what? Run this query within a transaction boundary. Within a transaction boundary, run this query. By default, JPA will execute select operations within transaction boundary. Select operations within a transaction boundary. But now I am telling the JPA that what? You run this update query also within a transaction boundary. So for that, what is annotation required? At transactional. At transactional. Very good. Now I'll go to my runner component. Let us keep the previous operation in comment. Now let us perform the update operation. Update order amount. Okay, by status. Okay, enter count equal to repo dot update amount by status. Okay, what's the first parameter? Status. Order status. Second parameter amount. Now come to the problem here. This is also we need to recognize. The first parameter will be automatically set to the first placeholder, and the second parameter will be automatically placed to the second placeholder. So what is the value set in the first placeholder? Status. How can you set the status for amount? How can you update the status value in amount? And second parameter, okay, so parameter will be set to the second placeholder, which means the parameters are not in correct order. The parameters are not in the correct order. So we should shuffle them. We need to shuffle them. This is not the correct way of adding the parameters to the method. What should be the first parameter? Amount. What should be the second parameter? Status. Nice. First let me do this. Then I'll give you one more way. Okay. Right now, I want to write first parameter. Who's the first parameter? Double UM. Comma. Next one. Order status. Status. So now they are in proper order. Then by default, what JPA will do is what Hibernate will do simply. JPA provides Hibernate internally. Right? What Hibernate will do internally? It will set the new amount to the first parameter and status value to the second parameter, second placeholder. This order of the parameters will play important role. So we should declare in that way. Now I can run this. I want to go to runner component. Then I want right here update amount by status. Provide the first parameter new amount. For example, new amount 6,599. 6599. And second parameter order status dot place. In the database, I have two orders with the status called place. For the amount I want to update them 6599. 6599. Are you able to get my point? No. Just print we can instantly run the query and we can see the result, right? So here guys, currently first the user test means this is a database schema or logical database that we are using for this application. And select star from orders means all the orders will be displayed here. Now these are the orders you can see guys. There is a ID, there is amount, there is order date, and there is what? Data. Now in that placed and placed, how many orders are there right now? And what the current amount they have? 1000, and other order is 3000. Now we want to update to 6599. Yes. Let me export this application. Now we will run this application now. So once the application exported, then we are going to see the output here. How many number of orders updated? Now go and check in the table. Get the latest records from the table. This is previously viewed data. But now we want latest data. So once again, if you run the query, so that you will get the latest data, right? Select star from orders, execute this. Now we can see what the orders placed, what is the amount updated to. It's quite amount. It is done. So now I will explain about another thing. I'll be talking about the other way, so you guys can see this. Okay, look at this. Look at this. What is the point I'm saying now? I'm saying that in a JPQL query, not SQL, in a JPQL query, we can also use another type of parameters called named parameters. We can use number one, positional parameter. Second, number two, named parameter. Number one, we can use positional parameter. Number two, we can use named parameter. So we have positional parameters and also we have named parameters. Like the two types of parameters are there, and we can use any one of them. Positional parameter means question mark and index. The index starts from 1, question mark 1, question mark 2. These are called what type of parameter they are called? Positional parameters. Okay, positional parameters are about question mark 1, question mark 2, etc. These are called what type of parameters? Positional parameters. Second one is what? Named parameter. Named parameters will start with colon. Start with what? Colon. And you can use some name. Whatever the name that you want, you can write here. It doesn't matter. But why named parameter is just its alternate way. Just only alternate way to make it more readable. That's it. The query becomes more readable if you write what type of query? Named parameter. If you write named parameter, your query becomes more readable when compared with the positional parameter. And named parameter in a query is going to start with a colon symbol. The symbol colon. Named parameter will start with a colon followed by something. So observe here. All these things I will add to the tables. Same query. Okay. O.amount equal to colon amount. this query is more readable query when compared to the previous query. Okay, so to make the query more readable, one more type of parameters are also given. What is that called? Named parameter. So you have alternate options. Okay, alternate options, you know, for example, you want to run this application. See, run button is here, run button is here, run button is here. Okay, are they mad to give these many types run buttons there? The people who developed this IntelliJ IDE is such a great people. Are they mad to give the run button for you these many types? No. Then why they have given? Just alternate. This is one place, this is one place, this is one place. You can just for our convenience. Just for our convenience. Just for our convenience. You can run this application from class, you can run the application from directly main, or you can directly run the application from IDE. Okay, like that. They have given three. Why they have given these many times? Run button, play button here. Correct? Similarly, in a similar way, if you understand, here also what type of parameters they have given? Positional parameters and named parameters. Named parameters are more convenient than positional parameter, because if your query has one line of query, it's okay, you can manage the positional parameter, but you have to always think in a broader approach. What happens if your query is having 30 lines? Such a big query you are writing, which is a sub query, join query, all functionally you are writing, your query is going to become 30 lines, 30 lines of query. Your query itself is having 30 lines. In such case, right? So then it will be very confusion. Where is the value you are setting for question mark 1, which value goes to question mark 2, which value goes to question mark 3. Okay, you can imagine now, right? If you are imagining that, then you will automatically understand about its difficulty. That's why another way given. What is that? Named parameter. Okay, na? Right. So with the named parameter, what the advantage? The query becomes more readable, and setting the values to parameters also easy. I'll tell you, there is one annotation given called param. I'll tell you that. You know to follow the order. Okay, look at this now. I will do one thing. I'll cut this. Okay, I'll be cutting this. Order status comma amount. Actually, in the first place, what should I say? Amount. For the second parameter, I should specify status. But here my parameters order is different, right? Then what is the one way that I need to do? What is the one way I can able to set the values properly to the query? I should define my queries in the same query. My parameters of the method in the same order. For the first one, amount. Second one, status. But when you are using named parameter, you have an advantage. Okay, so whenever you are using a named parameter, you have advantage that you can explicitly specify which parameter you want to set for which named parameter, and we can map them. To map them, we have annotation called param. The annotation param data. Param of data. Next, again here also what I am writing now. Now you can say answer at param of amount. But when can I use at param annotation? I can use at param annotation only if the query has a named parameter. Now we are explicitly mapping. Tell me, this is the method parameter. Now this method parameter is mapped to this query parameter. Which annotation can be used to map the method parameter with the query parameter? By using annotation called param. Now you tell me this first parameter will be set to which named parameter out of these two? Into which one it is going to set now? Status. Status. The first parameter value goes to status. Second parameter value goes to amount. Now right or not? Right. But here we can map explicitly. How do you map them explicitly? By using annotation. What is the purpose of this head-param annotation? What is the use of this annotation called head-param? This annotation can be used to map a method parameter to the query parameter. Now this concept is called named parameters. This concept is called what? Named. How do you write a named parameter in query? By using colon. First, we will run this up. We have two more orders: delivered. Okay, one order has salary, amount 8999. Other one is having 4999. Now I want to update both of them to 7999. For example, just for example, we are executing our query. So tell me, how do you do that? Tell me what the parameters to provide now. Order status dot delivered, comma 7999 dot 0 otherwise. Okay. Now the 7999 will be set to the second named parameter or to the first named parameter? First parameter. This first parameter will be set to the second named parameter because we are mapping them explicitly by using one annotation called what? @param. So am I clear with the @param annotation also now? Very good. So you got some new annotations today. What are the new annotations you learned? @modifying. Next one @transactional, and also now @. But first, before adding the statements to the document, let us run this. Correct. Again, the number of orders updated is what? Just get the latest data. Query, and now we can see here delivered is the status, but the amount is updated to what? 7,999. Okay, right. This is the modifying operation. Here my query is what type of query over here? What type of query is there with annotation and query annotation? Update query. Update query is a modifying query, write operation. That's why we what are the other annotation to the JP? @modify. Okay, that is also. Here in case of update query, now we can also delete query because delete also write operation. Insert is also what? So to perform insert or update or delete operations with query annotation, what is the other annotation that we will specify? @modify. @modify. This is one more that we need to add with query. Okay, let's start adding the statements. So we understand, as per our understanding, query annotation can also be used for write operation. As per our understanding, what query annotation can also be used for what? Write operation. But how to tell the JPA that this query is for write operation? @modify. Okay, right. To tell the JPA that query operation or anything, query annotation is used to perform a write operation. What operation? Write operation. To tell the JPA that query annotation is used to perform a write operation, what the annotation we have to use now? Yeah, we also need to add or need to specify @modify. Next, to tell the JPA that execute this query query within a transaction boundary. We also need to specify enter a transactional. Okay, next. Tell me, in a JPQL query, what and what type of parameters we can use? Named parameter and positional parameter. Okay. In a JPQL query, what we can do? Yes, in a JPQL query, we can specify. What we can specify? A positional or a named parameter. We can specify a positional or a named parameter. Okay, see, question mark, then index. Of course, your index starts from 1, not 0. Question mark index. It is what type of parameter? Positional parameter. Next, colon, name. Some name you are passing. Now this is called what? Named parameter. Okay, right. Now, example. Just I am writing some sample example. Update employee. Right? E dot sal equal to question mark 1. Where E dot deptno equal to question mark 2. These are what? These are called what? These are called positional parameters. Now we want to write named parameters. Tell me, how did the named parameters now? Okay, update employee set E dot sal equal to colon sal or P1, P2, any name you can add, some meaningful name. Next, tell me what? Where E dot deptno equal to colon deptno. Okay, the first one uses what parameter? Positional parameter. The second one is using what? Named parameter. Am I clear with that? Next. What's the next step? Okay, what's the next point that I would like to explain? At param annotation. For the use of at param annotation? Yes, at param annotation is to map the method parameter with a named parameter in a query. Right? Next, we have to use at param annotation to map a method parameter. Which parameter? Method. Now, at param annotation to map a method parameter with a named parameter. With a named parameter in the query, the JPQL query. Directly, that example I will paste it. You understand? Okay. So I have covered so far whatever I have explained to you in the document also. This is for reference purpose. Right? Next, we will go ahead. Okay, we'll go ahead. So am I clear with this now? I'm done. I'm done. Now, third approach is there. So far, under query approaches concept, we have discussed that query by method name, query by query annotation, next one query by at named query. So now we are understanding about which annotation next? At named query annotation. Yes. Now here you guys need to understand it clear. At named query annotation. So we want to complete this annotation called at named query in the today's class with example. See here. The same example we will add. So far, you know, this is your entity class. Everybody understand this? It's a very, very, very small concept. Okay. So this is our entity class. This is our entity class. This is the repository interface. It is the entity class and this is the repository interface. Consider this is entity class. And this is the repository interface. Repository interface. Am I clear with that? Repository interface. Now if I use query annotation, by using query annotation I am writing the query in the entity class or in the repository interface. Question is already placed. Now you need to think answer for that. By using query annotation you are using it where? In the entity class are you using or in the repository interface are you using? In the repository interface only you are using it. So far we have written repository only, but not in entity class. Now what can I do? Opposite. Query you can write in entity class only. Give a name to that. Give a name. Add that name in the repository interface as a method declaration. Use that name to declare a method in repository interface. Where do you write the query now? Not in repository interface. Now you can write the query in entity class itself. That's the difference. By using query annotation, where are you writing the query? In the entity, in the repository interface. But now we want to write that query where? In the entity class only. Just only reason is what? If you write the query also in entity class only, that query becomes more readable. It improves readability because entity class and a query on that entity class both are available in same place. What is happening in the previous entity class somewhere? Repository interface in other place. Two different files. You are writing query where? You are writing the query in the what? Repository interface. If you write the query in the repository interface, if you have any doubt, property name, field name doubt, field type doubt, which class you are opening? Entity class you have to open na? Because we are writing the query in the repository interface, you are writing the query. But where is entity class? It is in some other file. So now to write a query properly, you should know the properties names, you should know their data types, then tell me how to open what? Entity class. Now this repository interface and code is given to you. How do you understand my query? If you want to understand my query, then tell me you have to open what? My entity class. So where is query and where is entity class? Both are in two different places, different files. So one more approach is given. But the one more approach, you can also write the query at entity class itself. You write the query at entity class itself. So now your entity and the queries on that entity both are at one place. It will make code more readable. To improve the readability of the query or to improve the understandability of the query, then we have the concept called writing the query and writing the entity class at one place. But how do you write that query in the entity class only? One annotation required for you. Who is that annotation? At the rate named query. Okay, let me explain now. Observe this. Go back to the code. Apply this concept. Go back to the code and apply this concept. This is the repository interface, right? Now this is my entity class, right? Now here only I am writing annotation called at named query. What is the annotation? At named query. Now this at named query contains one element called query is equal to name is equal to like that. First let me write name equal to comma query equal to. Okay, I will add, don't worry, query equal to. So tell me, what is the annotation here? At named query. What are the two elements or attributes I should specify with this annotation? Name and query. I should give some name. The name should follow. The name should follow a naming convention. What is the naming convention? Entity class name dot method name. Entity class name dot method name. Name should follow a naming convention. And try to get the concept. I'll also tell you about why this naming convention is important. I'll explain that. Don't worry. Okay, why this naming convention is proud, I'll tell you that. Okay, you know already some naming conventions we need to follow while writing the Java class, variable, method and all. Constant, package name. Package name must be always in lowercase. Keywords are in lowercase. Constants are in uppercase. Next one, variables and methods must follow Pascal case. Pascal case or camel case. Variable and method name should follow which case? Pascal case or camel case? Camel case. Class name and interface name should follow Pascal case. These are naming conventions. Means best practices, standards. Okay, right? Best practices. They are not rules. They are not rules. They are not the rules, but they are best practices. Okay, variable name, method name should follow camel casing. Class and interface name should follow Pascal casing. Constant should follow uppercase. Package name should follow lowercase. And of course, all the keywords are lowercase. This Pascal case, camel case, uppercase, lowercase are called naming conventions. Rules are different. Identifier rules, you know the rules, right? Rule 1. Okay, rule 1. Okay, alphabets are allowed, digits are allowed, underscore allowed, dollar sign allowed, other special characters are not allowed. You know that, right? Don't start with a digit. White space not included. Am I right or not? No limit length, no limit on the length. You can write variable name, right? But it should be meaningful. Like that we have some rules now. Rule 1, rule 2, rule 3, like that you learned, right? Good. Okay, sir. Now we don't want to go there, but we want to continue here. So tell me, at named query is annotation, and this annotation contains two attributes. One attribute is what? Name, and the next attribute is what? Query. Query. Please try to understand me. And query is annotation. We have name and we have query.
Hello.
Name and query. Two annotations are there. Please try to get this point. Okay. Understand the point very, very clearly. Name should follow a naming syntax. I'll tell you why the naming syntax is required. First of all, what is the naming convention to be followed for the name? Entity class name dot method name. What is the entity class name here? Order dot. For example, find all by date. Order date. That's my method name. Okay, this is called what? Entity class name dot. This is called what? Method name. What's the method name? Find all by order date. What's the query? What's the query that you want to map with this method name? are mapped to this method name, write the query here. What's the query? Select O from order O. Order O condition where O dot order date equal to question mark 1. In place of question mark 1 positional parameter, we can also use named parameter. Right, named parameter. If there is only one parameter, then you can go for positional parameter. If there are multiple parameters, then how to make your query more readable? Using named parameters. Now look at this. I'll split it into 2 lines now. So tell me about which annotation I'm explaining to you. Enter named query. Now go to the repository interface. In the repository interface, you should declare the method. You should declare a method matches with the name. In the named query. In the named query, what is the method name given here? Find all by order date. So we need to declare a method here. You should come to the repository, and this is what you have to do. List of order. Find all by order date. Parameter should be order date, na? Order date. Local date, order date. It's a local date type, na? Sorry. That's it. Okay. See, remember. How does JPA know that for this method I have to run this query? How does JPA know all these things? That is why we are providing a method name. Okay, a method name matching with this name. You got my point? The names are matched now. Right. Try to get this point clearly, everyone. So am I clear with the point now? Right. So tell me, okay, now tell me, how does JPA know that? How does JPA know that which query that I have to execute for this method? How does JPA know that which query to be filed on database for this method? So it is now going to check for, the query mapped to this name. Okay, which annotation is available on top of the entity class? Named query. It maps what a query to the name, right? Now what is the query mapped to this name? Find all by order date. Select O from order O, where O dot order date equal to question mark 1. That's it. It will fire this query on the database. Okay? Right. Then you may have a doubt. Then only write the method name. Why are you writing class name dot method name? Just write like this. Find all by order date. Okay. Now what JPA will do? How does JPA know that which query that should be executed for this method? How does JPA know that? Now JPA is going to look for query annotation. Which annotation? Named query. What is the name here? Find all by order date. So what is the query mapped to this name? Select O from order O, where O dot order date is equal to question mark 1. So this query gets executed, na? You got my point? This query got executed. That's all. Problem is solved. Problem is solved. Then why we are writing entity name dot? So did you guys understood? Why should I follow this naming syntax? I'll tell you the reason for that. Tell me in your application example. Suppose here my method name is find all by order date, okay? For example, I am writing method name as only find all, that's it. Only find all. Example, find all. Okay, find all or fetch all, something like that. Fetch all. Then tell me what should be the method name here? Fetch all. I'll modify once again, but fetch all. Am I clear? Nice. Listen. One application can contain one entity class only, or can have the multiple entity classes also. Multiple entity class also. Assume that I have two entity classes. Assumption, I have two entity classes. At entity, I'm not doing everything, only at entity, public class, customer. Customer has customer fields. Okay, customer has customer fields. What is there in that? Now tell me here, on top of this, I'm writing what at the rate? Named query. Named query. For example, name equal to name equal to what I should write. For example, find all. Just example, fetch all, comma, query equal to select C from what to say? Not getting. Customer C. What is the entity class name here? Customer. Select star from customer. Convert it into JPQL. What is it? Select C from customer C. Clear, na? Okay, this is SQL query or a JPQL query? JPQL query. JPQL query. We can't add SQL query here because annotation is what? Named query. Named query only allow JPQL query. One more annotation is there for SQL query. Named native query. What is annotation? Named native query means SQL query. Two annotations here. Named query, named native query. Okay. So now select C from customer C. It is one entity class. Very good. Consider other entity class is employee. Consider one more entity class is there. Who is that entity class now? Employee. I am writing at entity public class employee. It has all the fields. Now, what is the annotation? I am writing on top of this at named query. It's a different class, na? Name equal to fetch all. Name equal to fetch all. Query is equal to select E from employee. Select E from employee. Select E from what is that? Employee E. Select star from EMP. How do you convert it to JPQL query? Select star means E from employee E. That's it. Now, observe how many entity classes are there with me right now? 2. What is the name given in the first entity class? What is the name given in the first entity class? What is the name given in the second entity class? Fetch all. In the second one also, fetch all. JPA will store. JPA will store. Understand everyone? JPA will store all these queries at one place. At one place with their names. That place is called persistence context object. A big word, but only for today you remember that word. Next time I will speak about it. What is it? Persistence context. There is one object, persistence context object in JPA. JPA will store all the named queries in that object. Which object? Persistence context object. Very good. Listen to me. Now this is the persistence context object. Feel that it is what type of object? This blue box, the rectangular box, is the persistence context object of JPA. In this object, JPA will store all these named queries with their names. With their names. Tell me. What is the name? What is the name? Fetch all. What is the name? Fetch all. Fetch all is the name. Very good. Tell me what is the name? Fetch all. Tell me fetch all is the name. Is the name. Tell me what is the query of fetch all? Select. Fetch all is the name, right? Fetch all is the name. Tell me what is the query? Select. Select the C from, yes, select C from customer C. You see now? Select the C from customer C. Okay, double C. Yeah? Okay, customer C. Tell me the second query name is also what? Fetch all. Fetch all. Fetch all. What is the query? Select E from employee. Tell me where JPA will store these queries? In this object. What is the name of this object? Persistence context. It's a persistence context object. Persistence context object. It's a persistence context object. In this object, JPA will store what? JPA will store the all named queries with their names. All, not only one customer class, all entities. Then tell me, in the first one, the second one, what is the name given? Fetch all, fetch all. The names are same. In this object, the second query will override the first query. Now, who will override what? Second query will override the first query. Suppose the second query is select E from employee. Now, what happens when it will override the first query? This is gone. Am I clear with that now? But if we store all of them, JPA will store all of them in one object. That is called what? Context object. So in the person's context object, right? If the names are matching, the current will override the previous value. In the person's context now, select E from employee, but not select the C from customer. That is gone. So we have a drawback here. That's why what the name is entity class name dot method name.
Recording in progress.
I don't have two entity classes. I don't have two entity classes. I don't have any two entity classes. I have a single entity class like in our example today. Then you can write directly the method name. It's a rule. It's not a rule. It is a naming convention. So hope you guys are understood now. Now tell me the persistence context. Now tell me the persistence context. The persistence context. How many queries are stored? How many queries are stored with the respective names? 2. What is the first name? Customer.fetchAll. customer dot fetch all. Second one, employee dot fetch all. So, am I clear with this now? Right. Okay. I want to go back and I want to modify again back to my previous name. Tell me what is the name I want to give here. Find all by order ID. Sorry, find all by order date. What's the method name here? Find all by order date. Let's run this query. With this we can get the information about named query annotation. I add the statement, but right. Call this method. Find order by order date. Okay, find order by order date. Which method I am calling now? Report order. Which method I am calling now? Find order by order date. But I should pass one order date, na? I should pass what? Order date. It's the local date, right? It's what date? Local date. For example, I am writing local date dot of 2026 year. Feb 21st. 21st February, whatever orders are given, I want them. Okay, it returns me what list, na? What this method returns? The result is a list. Directly what I can call for each. For each. System dot out colon return. Let us run this now. Okay, now you tell me there are how many orders are given on the 21st date? 2 orders are given. Both status is what? Placed. Something like that according to our data. So is our application working or not? Yes. Which annotation you learned today? One more annotation. What's the new annotation just now we learned? At named query. At named query is purely for adding JPQL query. Adding what query? JPQL query. Like at named query, we also have one more annotation called at named native query. What is the annotation? At named native query. This is for adding SQL query. This is for SQL query, and this you have to learn. Of course, you know named query, you can add named native query. While practicing, you add this annotation also. Named native query. Named query for JPQL. I'll add all the statements and then I'll share the doc. Yesterday night also I've shared the doc. I don't know whether you have seen that or not at late night. I've shared the doc yesterday night and today also I'll share. Okay, now at a named native query, that is SQL query. At a named query, this is for JPQL query. So now how many query approaches are there? 3. Query by method name, first approach. Second one, query by at query annotation, completed. Next, query by at named query, completed. So what is completed right now? Query approaches completed. What approaches in JPA? Query approaches Query approaches are used for what purpose? What is the purpose of query approaches? A big question mark. What is the answer for that question mark? Okay, to add some custom methods. To add some custom methods to the repository interface. To add custom operations or custom methods to the repository for query approaches. We got some answer called query approaches. Otherwise, what are the only 2 methods available? Find by ID, find all. Find by ID means primary key value. Find all means everything will come. But I want placed orders. also you can practice it. Today I'll place it early, in the afternoon I'll.
Recording stopped.